get the knowledge, because if you have the knowledge, you can go places.
What's up, everybody? It's Tully with the FYI podcast. I'm super excited today. I got a friend in the house, okay? I got a very talented actress, voiceover actress, and writer, Felicia Wissa.
Hi, everybody.
I've had the honor to work with Felicia on multiple projects, and I asked her to come on the podcast, and she accepted.
Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing. I've worked with Felicia over the last, I'd say 6 years.
Yeah, just about.
About 6 years. Yeah. I know nothing about Felicia aside from her incredible talent. We were just talking off camera. We've never actually talked too much like about personal taste, just always readings, productions, and we're working together. So I'm really excited to get to know you, Felicia, and know a little bit more about who you are, where you come from.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you got a couple days, because then we can really dive deep into that. But
they might keep us a little shorter than that.
So I'm originally born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I literally was born at the Kaiser Permanente in Hollywood. Back in, it was a while ago.
Right. We'll just say.
Yeah, back in the day. Just know that I know about OJ.
About
and
20
I know
years ago.
Yeah, about LA riots and all that. But I was born to two Congolese parents. They migrated here back in the 80s. They're my family's from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and they're from the capital city, Kinshasa. And so if you know anything about, especially about Africa, we went through colonization, and then there was the independence that we received from from Belgium back in 1960, I want to say 69, which was a tumultuous time. And then after that, the country was under a dictatorship that lasted up until about the 90s.
Wow.
Yeah, so from there, we were under one dictator. And then after that, we started to have different presidents and everything like that. But that's a complex history in itself. But my parents came to the States in the 80s. My father came first, met up with two of my uncles, and then they landed in North Carolina. My dad came into New York, was only in New York for about a week, slept on a train. Wow. It was actually the Blue Line. Slept on the train, and then called family members back home and was like, do you know anybody in the States that he could be with? And they were like, oh, go to North Carolina. Went to North Carolina, met up with my two uncles, and then they packed a car up, came out to LA. And then my dad brought my mom and my sister over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. What was your dad's occupation when he was out here, when he got to LA?
So initially, he got a scholarship to go study in France, and he got his degree in architectural design. And then from there, when he came to the States, the degree didn't transfer. It wasn't the same amount of credits, and he was like, I don't want to have to go through school again and try to get the money again as an immigrant at that time. It was just too difficult, and it would take him too much time. So he ended up getting his degree in sociology and then became a social worker, but was also working as a cook at night.
Wow.
He was a hustler.
He was double, yeah.
Yeah, and then he eventually wanted to have his own business, because my dad was really good at understanding the economics of different nations and everything like that. This is what was told to me.
Yeah.
But he was really good at understanding that, and he was like, the best thing to do in America is go the entrepreneurial route. And so he wanted to do that before he passed, but unfortunately couldn't.
Oh.
Yeah.
When did you lose your dad?
When I was 2.
Oh, you were a baby.
Yeah. So here's the crazy thing about that. When he died, we were in Kinshasa, and he died from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is ALS.
Oh, okay.
And so he was essentially just deteriorating because his nervous system was breaking down. And I have a memory that I thought was just a recurring dream when I was a kid. So when I was about 5 years old or so, I just kept having this dream of I'm sitting on someone's lap, there's a Bible that's open, and the person falls over, and there's a nightstand. But then some woman in a green nightgown or something, a green velvet nightgown, comes and picks me up. And then that's the end of the dream. So when I was about 5, I was like, why do I keep having this dream? So I asked my mom, I was like, what is this? And she said, that's when your dad died. And she was like, oh, but he's in the sky, he's in heaven, and this, that, a third. So when I got to be about, I want to say 7, we were on a flight to go to Louisiana because I have like American family members. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get to see my dad. He's in the sky and this, that, and a third. And we took a red-eye flight. We got in the plane and I opened the window. All I saw was clouds and sunshine. And so like that disappointed me because I was like, oh, so like he's really gone forever. It's not like, oh, he's in this reachable destination. Like he's really gone forever.
Wow.
So,
how old were you on that flight?
I was about 7.
Wow.
Yeah, 7 or 6 around then. Yeah, that's when I realized that. I was like, oh, he's gone. And then over time, I started seeing like, you go through family albums, and then there was like certain packs of photos that I couldn't, like that I didn't have, me and my siblings didn't have access to. Being curious kids, you go in your parents, your mom's drawer, you're like, let me see those pictures. And so I saw some pictures and I saw like what he was going through, like the way he looked from when he was healthy to when he wasn't. And it's like the deterioration of the body. When that nervous system shuts down, it's like you essentially become a vegetable. So, yeah.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. And your mom, so did your mom ever remarry, or she raised you on her own? Was she, after your father died, was she a single?
She was a single parent. It's hard to tell because for me, I was so young.
Yeah.
I do believe that there were suitors that tried to pursue her, but she never wanted to bring a man into the household just because of like, it just gets a little weird and you don't want any kind of you don't want to cause any corruption. Right.
Yeah.
So,
my grandma was like that.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather passed away at 44. Oh. So my grandmother was only 43 and
wow.
Still, fairly young woman. And she stayed a widow. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't remarry, or she stayed a widow till she passed back in 2004. So she just kind of, once he passed away, I was born 3 years after he passed away, but once he passed away, so my whole life she was just,
you just
normal.
had,
I was just had my grandma, but she was just devoted her whole life to family.
Yeah.
Like that was her complete motivation, passion, reason for going. So, instead of, which is interesting as I become, a man and you start thinking like, wow, like the discipline and sacrifice of that, of
just wanting to dedicate yourself to your family.
Yeah.
Well, the crazy thing for me is, for us culturally, so when people pass on, it's a whole situation. Like the grieving process is very interesting. Like we do things very differently. We're a part of like the Bokongo tribe, under the subgroup of the Bantu people. So we have this thing called matangas. And like, let's say for instance, like your grandmother dies, right?
Yeah.
You would call up your entire community to and let them know like, hey, my grandmother just passed, this, that, and the third. Word spreads. Now what happens is the entire community floods your home. So for like about a month to 2 months or however long leading up to the funeral, everyone is preparing for the funeral. And the purpose of it is that you are reminded of life. So as you're going through the grieving process, no one is allowing you to fall into that isolation, because what can happen is thoughts of suicide can come. Thoughts of, anger or malice, whatever your relationship was with that person who passed, can make you fall into these like really detrimental places. So people are constantly in your home, like the aunties are cooking, the grandmothers are cooking, the fathers are coming in, they're inviting pastors to come in and pray. Like your house is never empty. Like what will happen is like people will be sleeping over. Sometimes people will stay for a week, sometimes people will stay for a month. They are calling off work for you.
Wow.
And so like growing up, I would always see the cycles and patterns of life, and I thought it was normal. Because like I would have friends who would like lose people. The moment they called me and told me they lost I'm going to their house. Yeah. Like I'm leaving work and I go to the house. But then I was like, that's where the culture clash started to happen, where I started realizing, I was like, oh, you guys don't do this. I was like, oh, Americans don't do this. I was like, oh, well, I'm going to still do it anyway because I want you guys to still know that life is still going. You have a shoulder to cry on, even if you don't have everybody. But that's how we were raised. Like, that's what happened. So, like, but once it happens, you don't really talk about it after. And so any time growing up, I would ask questions about my dad. I never got answers. And I never got clear answers.
Wow.
It took, I want to say like until 2019, I didn't know that my dad had a sister. Wow. I didn't know he had 5 brothers and a sister. I did not know that. And so when his niece reached out to me because she saw me on an episode of SWAT on CBS.
Oh, yeah.
And like these bloggers in France like wrote about me. And I was like, I don't even know who you guys are, but okay. You know, it's like free publicity. She reached out to me and was like, hey, you have the same last name as us. And I asked my family and they said, yes, that's your American cousin who's in the States. I think they're in California. You should reach out. She reached out to me and she was like, I'm your cousin and I'd love to talk to you, you know, and just connect with you. I was like, who? I was like, where did you come from in the family? Like, I don't even know who you are because nobody talks about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, I didn't know my grandparents on my dad's side because he passed when I was 2 and they were still living in Congo.
Wow.
So I never really spoke to them. And there's like this gray area where nobody really talks about it. And I feel like something may have happened around his funeral. I just don't know what.
Right.
And so it's kind of left me with a lot of questions because I don't know that side. Like even for like my siblings, like they don't really know that
And
side.
you haven't been to Congo.
I have been.
You have.
When I was a kid, though.
But I mean in recent years.
No.
Now as a woman, like, have you thought about going back to retouch with your folks?
I've considered it, but I also think to myself, because as an adult, what am I inviting in?
Right.
What am I, because from my understanding, from what my cousin has told me, they know about me.
Yeah.
They know about us.
But they haven't. Yeah.
I've even seen like 2 uncles of mine on Facebook post about some of like whatever I've accomplished that's online, but nobody will reach out to me. She's the only one who did. And I was like, what happened?
Well, maybe it also could just be like, right? It's such a culturally different world, right? They're there and they're seeing their American,
right.
You know, a distant relative who's like, you know, on TV shows, and that's a big deal. I'd imagine if you're living in, I don't know if they're living in, I don't know what it's like in Congo, so I don't want to sound ignorant.
It's different.
Is it city? Is it more like, are they like in a village? Or?
Well, there's always family in the village, right? There's always going to be family
like for
there.
them, it might be like, so you know, maybe they don't even have the thought process to reach out to you.
There's that. Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
think the mindset
kind of
is
out
very
of sight,
different.
out of mind. I mean, I'll tell you what. My family in Italy, I just went back. I took my mom 2 years ago. Me and my sister took my mom to Italy. My mom had cancer. She passed away earlier this year. And on her bucket list was to go back and see her family. She hadn't been back to Italy in years. I have never been. So now I have all this family there. But I mean, I never went. I didn't learn the language. I don't speak Italian. Right. But I knew I would hear about my aunts and my cousins. And, you know, my nonna used to talk about her sisters. You know, my mom would talk about her family. But I personally had never went. And so me and my sister were like, let's take mom to Italy. It was on her bucket list as she's battling cancer. So we went. And I got to spend a month over there, and almost a month. It's 3 weeks, but then I got COVID.
That's a lot.
But I got COVID, and they wouldn't let me leave.
Right.
I had to stay alone, quarantined for 10 days, which was actually still awesome. What a place to be.
Right. You're quarantined in like a beautiful
and I
country.
didn't have COVID in the sense of like, it was like actually like just a cold.
Okay.
You
so you
know
didn't have like all the symptoms and everything.
No, I had a fever and a cough, and I was like, but at that time you had to test for the airline. You
Yes.
had to take a test the day before, like at a pharmacy, and then show that you have a negative test to get on the plane. And if you test negative, you can't get on the plane. So I had to literally quarantine. But anyways, I'm digressing. I spent a month there, and I got to know my family. And it was so incredible to, like, they live in they're scattered now. I mean, I have cousins that are like professors, but we started in Rome, and then we ended up going to the town that my grandmother immigrated from.
Wow.
And her sister still lived there. And then, like, the house my grandmother, not to sound funny, but it was amazing. Literally the house she was conceived in, all her sisters were conceived in and born in.
Oh, wow.
Like, there were no hospitals, home birth. Literally, I had dinner, and in the next room, they're like, this is where your nonna, because my cousin, Ermina, lives there now.
Okay.
His father was my grandmother's brother. It's still our family in this village. So they were like, this is where our grandparents were conceived, born, raised. I went to her elementary school. And
that's so awesome to see your point of origin. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is then my nonna's sister took me around the village. We went up on a hike of a mountain, overlooked the town, and she explained the history where, a lot of back in the ancient Roman days, that area is being a gladiator back then. So you know how like gladiators, like slaves fighting it was a profession. Like, so when you think of modern day, she was like, think of in America, you have football.
Yes.
That men would come out and train, and then they'd go fight in the Colosseum for the emperors and make money. So a lot of times, like, they'd capture, say, whatever,
right, from whatever
slaves or criminals
place.
or whatever that had to go in and fight these gladiators. But these gladiators were just trained athletes. So long story short, she said the majority of Roman gladiators came from where we come from. Not that I know, like, tough gladiator, but I was like, that's pretty amazing. Like, just to know, like, to learn my history or the history of where my people come from. And I have a relationship now, what I'm saying, with my cousins. We're all on Instagram, Facebook. They like all my posts. I like their stuff. We comment. And now we have a relationship. I'm going back in April.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and it's like now I have a relationship with my family in Italy, which all these years, I met, like, a couple of them had come to visit America, and I met them. But I didn't have, so I guess what I'm trying to say is I got to sit with my grandma's sisters, look at photo albums of my mom when my mom was a baby, when they went. And it was just like learning who my grandmother's father was. And he was in, her uncle was in Mussolini's army. Obviously, they were in Italy at the time. We weren't Americans yet. So, it was like, wow, like our family served in this.
They did all these great things.
Yeah, well, maybe serving under Mussolini might not. Well, as an American veteran, I'm like, well, we whooped there. No, but, but it was interesting to see, like, another interesting thing to be, I guess, I'm American, but Italian American. Yeah. It's interesting to see, like, wow, I have like my great grandfather, and these people served in Mussolini's army. There's pictures where Mussolini's standing. They're all army guys. I'm like, that's wild. And now I am a veteran in America. Yeah. And it's like, it's just crazy. It's cool lineage and where we come from.
It's really interesting to see the continuation of your lineage, like, in another nation.
Yeah.
And being a part of another bit of history in that nation.
Yeah.
Because the interesting thing is, like, okay, so my family's kind of also spread across the world. Like, we're kind of nomadic in that sense. And so I have cousins in Canada. I have cousins in France and in London and in even Czech Republic. And I got to spend a month out in Czech Republic with my uncle out there because his wife
I've never been there.
It's gorgeous. Prague. I went to 3 cities. We stayed in Prague, but we went to Brno and Ostrava. Wow. And that was that was a gift from my uncle. He gave me, like, my sweet 16. He was like, "You want to come to Europe?" I was like, okay. You don't have to tell me twice. But I got to see, and like I had more cousins that were out there too. And I was like, what is this? And his wife, she's a Czech citizen. She's a Czech native. And so she took us out to the village and we got to see like the outskirts of Prague and like got to hang out with her dad and like some of their neighbors. They got so excited. They were like, oh, there's an American coming to the village.
That's cool.
I was like, do they know I'm black? Like, but they didn't care. They were like asking me all kinds of questions. And at that time, Bush was in office and we were going into Afghanistan. And
I was serving then. So this is like 2001, 2.
Yeah, and I'm dating myself. But it was...
No, but you were a kid then.
Yeah.
Like, she was 1.
That's what I'm going to tell them. But when I was out there, they like asked me so many questions. They were like, you're a highways. Like, what do you think about your president? And in my head, I was like, the average 16-year-old wouldn't be able to give you an answer. Yeah. But I have an opinion because I'm always exposed to just international affairs just from my family. Like, we always have to be informed of what's going on in the world for each other. And I was like, they asked me, they were like, why does your president always want to go to war? Your government always wants to go to war. And I was, at the time, I was like, well, I don't know. I mean, like, they bombed us, or what have you, whatever the narrative was at that time. And so I was like, but it was a wonderful experience to be, first of all, to be out in Eastern Europe and not be in Western Europe, because that's a different mentality.
That's a different vibe, yeah.
The way that they function, like, and dealing with like the different generations there, because of the fact that, at one point they were with Czechoslovakia as one nation, and then they were also under the Soviet Union. So they went through so much and all that, and like just seeing how life is and how they were like getting acclimated to this new idea of like democracy and being a republic and everything like that. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And like just seeing how the youth were just so excited to just engage with other people and like foreigners. Like, I went to a college campus party. I had no business being there, but my cousins took me, and like talking to them, I was like, you guys know I'm 16, right? And they were like, you can drink. It's okay.
You're grown. Yeah,
they're
16.
Like, they were like, you can drink. It's okay. They kept taking me to beer gardens, everything. And I was like, oh, God.
Different culture,
Very different. But it illuminated and opened my eyes to seeing like how interconnected we all are, and just how much, like, there's no difference between us.
Right.
The things that we deem as different is language, ways of life. Your ways of life are really just constructed based on the environment you're in and whatever government you're under, because the way these people operate, there was like a rigidness, there's a coldness to them, but it's because they've dealt with so much. Yeah. You've been under so many different regimes. So it's like my grandmother was under Soviet Union. Then it's like, oh, well, my parents were under, they were in a whole nation with Slovakians. Well, now we're not anymore. We don't like, we don't really mess with Slovakians. We don't really like people from the West or this, that, and the third, whatever it was. And it's like dealing with those many different kinds of governmental setups and national setups, like borders and everything like that, it affects you. Sure. But then I was like, but there's relativity in all of that.
Yeah.
So there's not much that's different between us.
Yeah.
And you break down the humanity, we all got to eat. We all need shelter, and we all need each other to survive.
That's right. I love that you said that. Yeah, that was one of the things when I first got to travel around the world, and that my first experiences of really like seeing new places was in the Navy, and hitting different ports in different countries, and that was one thing that stood out to me. I always say that, like. What stood out to me, what I noticed in every single country that I've been to, every port we hit, everything, people like the same thing. Yeah. They like to eat good food. Mm-hmm. They like to drink and enjoy themselves. They like to sing and dance. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to have a good time and provide for their families. And that hit me where I remember being young and in the military and thinking, damn, man, all these wars that we have and all this stuff that we do, and it's like all the problems even we have here at home, and racism and classism and sexism, and and you go, everybody's the same. Like, you have maybe different religious beliefs or some cultural things are different. The food,
subtle things.
I might like pasta a little more than someone else likes tortas, or you know what I mean? Right. And it's like, but I love tortas too, and they love pasta, and it's like we're just. I don't understand why we make it so complicated as human beings, you know. But I mean, I guess I understand as a grown-up.
Right.
Money.
Yeah, it's greed. It's
greed.
It's greed and power.
Yeah.
You know, we have this innate nature of trying to conquer and dominate.
Yeah.
You know, there's always somebody who wants to be the head of something because it validates something within us. I think maybe that's like the God complex within all of us. It's like, if I'm going to be in this, I got to be number one, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody has ego, but it's, you know, who handles it, maintains it, and controls it that determines how people show up, I feel.
Yeah.
Because if you're, you know, you look at just the way certain dictators have operated and all throughout history, any kind of leader, any kind of king or even queens, the way they have functioned and the way that they've executed their power over their nations or trying to conquer other nations.
Right.
You know, like the expansion of Rome, the Roman Empire, or even you think about the expansion of the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah, the Persians.
You think about even just ancient Egypt and how they like just those civilizations and how they've dominated. It's like there's a nastiness to it that's required. But then there's also, you have to exercise some sort of kindness. So I always feel like everybody, whatever their domain is or wherever you are thriving or wherever you consider is your territory.
Yeah.
You kind of have to show some sides of yourself that may get a little ugly.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's some sides of yourself where it's like, oh no, you're like a Mother Teresa or something, but it just depends.
No, that's interesting that you said that, right? It could just be your home. Some people, right? That's the American idea of like owning your land and this is mine and I will guard it at all costs.
Yeah.
But an empire is the same. Or
it's the same because it's your domain.
It's yours, yeah.
Like I think about even with like Africans, like I think about when you own land, like the land you own, that's the soil of your blood. That's the soil of your bloodline. That's the soil of your people. The fighting that happens when it comes to land in a family, my God, it can get brutal because of the fact it's like, this is my father's land. Because everything passes through the father's lineage, at least for us, passes through the father's lineage. So it's like if somebody who's like a third cousin is trying to come in and take it, people will fight to the death. Over it. Like, who's going to get the deeds? And it's like, for me, I'm just like, I'm in America. I don't care.
And here it's the same. I mean, it's the same, right? Somebody passes away. That's why it's so important. And then I want to get into, though, you and your career and more. But the last thing I'll say, it's right. It's like a note to people out there. It's so important to have your affairs in order, wills, everything you need done, because I will say that we've experienced in my family before, and almost everybody I know has had those issues. A family member dies, the will wasn't done.
Yep.
Everybody goes to war to figure out like who's going to get the property, who's going to get this, and it doesn't even have to be properties and stuff. It could be like, yo, I want Auntie's earrings. She wants me to have. You know what I mean? And
I want her car or something.
I want the car. Yeah. I want the jack that's in the trunk of the car. She would want me to have it. Like, people go crazy for stuff. It's incredible to see, too. I've seen it happen. We had an incident like that in my family, not going in detail, but I seen it happen. And it's like, people were so close and loved each other before. And all of a sudden, someone passed, and there was a little bit of something. And you're like, who are these people? You know what I mean? And they're like lawyered up and go in the court. And you're like, what is happening? Very normal, very natural. I think what we're trying to get at, human nature. So how we could just be better humans to make things
a lot easier for the greater good.
Absolutely. Speaking of greater good, let's get into your talent. You were so good. You're an incredible actress. I just worked on this production with you. And I could easily say that you were a standout. Everybody. No.
Thank
Listen,
you.
and I don't just mean in your performance. I'm talking about your work ethic. Everybody on the production, everybody talked about you, Felicia, a lot.
What were these people saying?
Yeah, they were saying good things. They were saying stuff like, dude, because I mean, I brought you to, I think, referred you into that production.
Yeah,
I think
you did.
So
you and Marilyn did, yeah.
Yeah, and so a lot of the people were new that we were working with, so they didn't know you. And the response was, dude, what a joy to work with Felicia. You're always on time. You always had your work ready. You always were you never, what I love is when we're pivoting and things aren't going right on the set or the production, you never complain, and I can't say that about everybody. And it's justified, though,
it's
that
normal.
some people complain. Totally justified. But you don't, which is interesting. That's weird. Because most actors, which I'm not saying they're wrong for it, but, it could become very like, why is it this? Why is my costume this? And not that people were doing that on this production, but you definitely had the right energy. So I just wanted to give you that insight, Paul, because it was definitely noted and talked about and seen. So thank you for being such a...
I appreciate that. Thank you for that. That was lovely. Y'all.
Yeah.
That's
true.
Really nice.
It's true.
Honestly, the way I see it is everything is process, right? So in the arts, nothing is ever fully perfected. You can get to a place of contentment, but we all know as artists that getting to that place will bring in comfort, a sense of comfort, and that's a dangerous place for you to be, because then it means it's like you're not growing, you're not this, that. When it comes to going through the process, I myself over time have had to learn, because I'm a very analytical person. I don't know if that's like right side brain or left side, whatever, but I'm a very analytical person, and I'm like, things have to be this, that, and the third, especially when it comes to things I'm passionate about. Yeah. So I need the why, the rhyme, the reason. What is this? How does it lead to this? How does it intertwine with this and this, that, and the third? Over time, because of my mentors, I had to realize, like, through the art, you have to let things go and let things be. And I've applied that even in life, in my faith, in just how I move in relationships with people, friendships, romantically, whatever. Yeah. Just when things get tense and tight, I've learned to just let go and let God. Because when you try to make a meal out of a snack, what do you end up with? You might end up with nothing. Right. That's not gonna be a meal. You're gonna be hungry later. So when you're trying to make something happen, you're trying to create something out of nothing, you have to trust the process, that the vision you have is going to manifest. It's going to happen because it came to you. It didn't go to somebody else, but it is up to you to stick with it and keep going. And I knew with the production, because we've done plays before in the past, we've done readings, we've worked on stuff before. I know the process of things. I've done other stuff. I'm like, I know this is all going to come together. Yeah. There's nothing to worry about. Right. We know how this goes. It always gets tense and tight because you're nervous. People are coming to see this. This is something that is material that you want it to be impactful. This is artistry that you want to showcase, where you really went there. You really went to the depths. You really supported this. You want to be as cohesive as possible so that we're all working and operating as this fully living organism. Yeah. And that's why for me, like, in any production I'm on, or if I'm making my own content or creating my own stuff, which I'll be doing this coming year, I'm thinking to myself, how am I connecting, and how am I connecting with myself, being honest with myself, and how am I being honest with people, with the audience themselves? And what made me start doing that was I did a short film. I directed and wrote a short film a couple years at this point, probably like a while back. And I was talking about the quarter life crisis that was happening, like with millennials. We were coming out of college or trying to go into the workforce, and there's no jobs for our degrees. There was so much outsourcing happening in the economy. I kept meeting people who had like viable degrees. Some of like my siblings, their friends who were coming out with like degrees in engineering, degrees in communications, business administration, and they couldn't get a job. And I was like, well, that's contrary to the generation prior because they're coming out, they got jobs.
Yeah.
And not even just jobs, they're able to grow in their companies.
Yeah.
So they're able to lead. You can go from poverty to middle class.
Right.
That wasn't happening with ours. So I wrote that short film because I said, I keep hearing the same story from everybody around me who are in different industries. I said, I'm going to write about this because you shouldn't be in your mid-20s not having any kind of entry-level opportunities coming your way. What is happening in the economy?
Yeah.
And when I wrote it, we put it up, we shot it in 3 days, and then we started taking it into certain festivals. I remember one festival we took it into, the moderator like downplayed it because he was I think he was a boomer. Okay. He's like one of the later boomers. And he was like, wow, being 25 must be difficult. And I said, whoa. Every generation has their struggles, their obstacles economically, especially in this country.
Right. Why
would you minimize that?
Yeah.
And I said, do you know what's happening? Like at the time I like dropped statistics or whatever about like the average citizen who's coming out with a bachelor's degree from 2008 to about 2014. What are the jobs that they're taking? What are the job availability? I said, do you realize how much it's decreased since the 90s? And he didn't understand that. I was like, dude, look at the research. Look at the data. This is why I wrote it. It doesn't make sense. And so I remember I did like a little private screening with just like friends and like some industry folk. And one of my best friends, her mom, she came to see and she was like, this is so relatable to me. And at the time she was like hitting 50. She was like, this is what's happening to me, people in my generation. And I said, I just thought this was only going to impact us and like this is going to be our voice. But no, it touched old people of a different generation. And I said, well, that let me know. I said, this art is beyond me. Yeah. So whatever I come up with, whatever vision I have or whatever I'm inspired to create, it's meant for somebody else. So to be selfish with things and to think me on any production I go on or I'm a part of is stupid. Once you have it, let it just flow. Let God, whatever reason God gave it to you for, let it flow. Because if I have you come a part of it, I know you're going to put something else on it. Yeah. And it's just going to add to it. And then we can curate it a little differently so that it's still cohesive to the original vision, but now it's expanded. Then if I have somebody else come on it, look, add this DP, add this. You, the set designer, add this, do that. Like I like the process of that. And other artists in different aspects of the field, that inspires me because I'm like, I would have never saw that. Yeah. I would have never put that color combination together, but you did it. Yeah. I would have never thought, maybe there's something in this relationship here we can expand on writing wise. So that's why I always look at it as like, this is a collaborative thing. This is not like you can't do a play by yourself. Right. Even solo performances. Yeah. You still need help. You have to have extra sets of eyes. So we support each other. And just like we did with this last performance or this last production, we support each other. Yeah. Everyone was going through their process. Everyone was trying to help out. Everyone was contributing. And that's what it's supposed to be. You're supposed, it's
beautiful.
Yeah. And you don't see things because you're in it, but you have another set of eyes watching you. Now you know how to come in and help. Yeah. And then it's like, I wasn't thinking about that. Thanks for that. Thanks for that gesture, or thanks for this punching up this line. Yeah. Like it was so helpful to have the playwright Brett on, throughout the entire process. To me,
that was great.
I've never worked on a production where I had the playwright there from start to finish.
Yeah, right.
And even though I came on late, but still, like I never had that. I was like, this is so helpful because the vision is his.
Yeah.
So whatever inspired him to write this person, that person, this person,
Yeah.
I can go and ask him.
Yeah, it was great. I agree. I really enjoyed having him there and knowing his motivations of why he wrote this or why this circumstance was happening in the scene, and then allowing us to create who this person is and with these circumstances, which is the beauty of being an actor, and it's what's so fun. Speaking of acting, so you do voiceover acting as well. I know nothing about this, so I'm super curious to ask you. So is it like audiobooks or?
Right now, mostly audiobooks, but I've done ADR. I've done like animated series. I've done an animated series before, just for like smaller indie animated series for smaller companies. So what I'll do is like, right now I'm like trying to like continue to build that up.
Yeah.
But I started doing it when I was in New York, when I was in school. Like some of my mentors and some of like my teachers, they were voiceover artists. Like one of my mentors, he was the Mitsubishi guy. He was the voice of Mitsubishi for like 20 years.
Nice.
Yeah. And I remember when he revealed that to us, I was like, that is bank.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Um,
bought 2 houses with that Mitsubishi.
Oh, hands up in upstate New York. He sure did. But he was so easygoing. But when you look at this man's resume, Todd Sussman, wherever you are, you still inspired me. He's been on some of like the biggest projects.
Wow.
Like he was in Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3
with Denzel.
Yeah, and John Travolta.
Gandolfini.
Yes. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He the way that he taught our class when we were in the conservatory, easygoing. Just like talking to the mic and just act as though you're talking to one specific person.
Wow.
And making that, creating that environment where it feels like it's an intimate conversation. Like if you're doing scene work, you're doing scenes, like making it intimate. But then like there's a whole world of voiceover that the industry doesn't really talk about because it's, I don't want to say it's like exclusive, but it can be a little hard to get into certain things.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Have you done what's most of the content? So it's all just different. Some it's like, is it kid books? Is it films?
I've done a kid's book. I've done like self-help books.
Okay.
Recently it's been I kind of took a little bit of a break from it because it's time consuming.
Okay.
But
how long is, like, for the people watching that don't know, that aren't, because I actually don't know much either, but for the people watching, like we say ADR, that's where you go into booths and if there's a movie, right?
Yeah. Then you're doing the background sounds, a few little lines that are like off screen that they don't want to, like the actor isn't present on the
I want
picture.
a coffee and bagel.
Yes,
Let me get a bagel and coffee.
Oh my God, look at her hair. Like if the main character's passing through. Yeah.
And then the girl in the background.
Yeah.
Becky with the good hair.
Yeah. And it's kind of like I remember we did the ADR for the film Dear White People.
Oh, yeah.
And like in the opening credit sequence, they have like reality TV show jargon.
I remember that.
Yeah, but they couldn't use the actual content from those shows.
Oh.
So what they did was recreate it with us. So we had to act like, there was like 2 of us that had to recreate like the Real Housewives of Atlanta speech.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of sound like Nene Leakes. I had to.
So they could show her. They could show Real Housewives, let's just say, on the TV in the background. But as long as they change...
No, they didn't show it.
Oh, you
It was just the sound.
it.
Yeah, for the opening credits.
Got it.
So it was just the sound of us. Like we had to kind of emulate their voice so it could be recognizable, but they couldn't use the sound from the shows because they didn't have the license to.
I have if I have one of our producers write, like, while they're in the command center, if they write like maybe a couple sentences of a character before we're done with the podcast, would you do like a voiceover?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So
I'll
if you
do
guys heard that in there, can you guys get on that?
Please and thank you.
Okay, cool. So that's cool, and that was a big. Okay, and then how do you get these gigs? Are they? I mean, is it through your agent or is it stuff you're finding?
Yeah, some of them is through my agent, and as like an artist, you have to be proactive.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can't just solely rely on your reps.
Right.
They do the absolute best that they can. You know?
But you're also connections you're making.
Yeah.
It's like anything. It's just like in general in acting. It's we're not just waiting on auditions.
No, yeah, like
that's
I'll still go through like the different breakdown sites and like look for different jobs and such. Or even because there's certain ones that's for like audiobooks, and then there's certain ones that's like, hey, this person has like this independent animated series, and they just want somebody to do it. And when it comes to voiceover, because for me myself, I'm like, I want to build a good and decent diverse reel in different aspects of the field, like from commercial to animated series to even like to even audiobooks. Like I'm trying to build those portfolios up. So like when if I want to go to a publisher, I can do that. If I want to go to like an actual production space, I can say, hey, I can do these different voices and I can do these accents or what have you. Like if you need an extra voice, use me.
That's actually an awesome skill set.
Thank you.
No, I mean, it really is. Like, you could just have fun with that, So can you do, like, different, like New York, Valley Girl?
Yeah, we can do, like, a New York, whatever. If you want somebody, who's coming out of Brooklyn, or, if you want someone who, is coming out of South London, you could have somebody like that. Or, if you really want somebody who's, like, coming out of the Valley, or, because I grew up in the Valley, like, North Valley, like I'm on West Side,
That's great.
Or if you want somebody who's coming out of Texas and have a little bit of a twang, you can have that too. We can maybe go to a diner and do that. But it just depends. Or if you want somebody who's coming out of New Orleans, baby.
Yeah, you have to get a significant other that has those same skills, and you guys can just like role play like crazy. You can just travel around and do ridiculous. I was watching that movie Four Christmases with Vince Vaughn, and like the opening scene when they're like
Vince
at a bar.
He's one of my favorite
so
actors.
Crazy, so funny, dude. But they're like, it's like the most. Have you seen that movie?
I haven't.
I just watched it for the first time like the other night on Netflix, and the opening scene's so ridiculous. I'm like, what? Like this never happens in a bar with a girl. And then it's like they're role playing. You figure out like the next scene they're brushing their teeth. And they're like, I really liked that one tonight, honey. Like, and I'm like, that's awesome. But I don't know. That just made me think of that. Like you could probably have a crazy
how chaotic
time.
That would be.
Be hilarious.
You'd be dealing with like multiple different personalities all in one setting.
It'd be great to just shoot content of you doing that. Like you're at like a diner and you're just like, I don't know, like you're gonna be this French.
I mean, when I first moved back to LA from New York, when I came out and I saw like how the market was, I was like, oh, okay, for my type, Black girls don't typically like to be funny. At the time. The idea of being comedic was kind of like, ooh, that's not ladylike. And I was like, well, if I keep going the drama route, that is so saturated. And that is so full of like, I was like, that's going to be a long, arduous thing. I was like, well, how do I just separate myself a little bit to say, hey, not only can I do drama, but I can also do this. I started going into comedy. And I started going into like sketch.
Like stand-ups and sketch? Or?
I did stand-up for like a year.
That's rough.
I couldn't.
Did you actually do venues? Like
I did.
That's rough.
I took a comedy class. I would go to like different open mics with like the prominent open mics.
Yeah, I did the same with a class, and then we'd go and
I just was like, I don't like the hustle of it here. If I was still in New York, I would have done stand-up there. But I was like, there's something about it that I was like, this is not good for my artistry.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I tried it. Cool.
I admire them. They're great stand-ups. I love going to see stand-ups.
Yeah.
Like I sometimes just go to small gigs and big ones. I just saw Theo Vaughn in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and Amir, okay, and they just incredible. But
Yeah.
so anyway, but I admire. I think that it's tough, man.
It's not easy.
Improv also. I did improv for like 2 years. Like in school, I trained, and then I studied. I did some stuff at iOS before they closed in Hollywood, and I did a show at iOS. I was terrible. No,
you weren't.
No, I'm terrible. Improv?
Really?
I mean, you know, I got a couple, I guess I did my job. But I remember we were doing a show in Hollywood, and it was like 4 of us on stage. I forgot what this sketch or what was happening in the improv. But I stepped off into the wing for a minute. It felt like I didn't want to come back on stage, dude. And my 3 scene partners are out there. I felt like we were in a rumble, and like somehow I like was under a car.
No.
And I'm like, dude, I got to go back out there. But like my friends are getting their butt whooped, and I'm like, I don't want to go back out there.
No.
So I did. I was like, well, I can't just hide. So I jumped out there and finished the act with them. But it was tough. So I look at improv artists, stand-ups. Like us doing theater, film, it's a different craft. But what they do, I'm like, whew.
I give them so much props because to me, when it comes to the gamut of the business of artists, they are the most entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
They are the ones who are consistently doing well,
right?
Who may not be like headliners everywhere, but you
like
always
the Second Cities and the Will Ferrell
you keep
types.
seeing them pop up everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, when I see their hustle, the way that they immediately brand themselves. They immediately every show they have merch. They kind of function in the way of musicians.
Yeah.
Music artists.
I was just thinking that. Yeah,
they
you're
function
right.
like them. So if they're going on tours in cities, and then now with this digital era.
Yeah, they're social media. They're
so
taking pictures,
tech-savvy.
tagging each. No, you're right. Like I go to, at the comedy, so I met Amir. He did Theo, and then went to see him at a local venue here in LA. And then after, I just waited. He came out saying hi to people. And, very, upfront, man. Said, yo, what's up, man? I just saw you in Vegas with Theo. He's like, oh, yeah, man. And he was so cool. And, like, I tagged him right away. And then the other comedian that was open for him started following and tagged me back. And I'm like, dude, these guys are grinding and hustling.
Yes.
We're, like, actors, a lot of times I feel like not all actors, but I'm saying you go to a show and it's this thing. It's like, I just want to disappear. I don't even want to do a curtain call. And which I get it, but it's almost sometimes like, dude, let's get over ourselves. Comedians and stuff. Nah, bro, they're doing a set. They're getting heckled. They're handling the heckler. Then they're drinking with people doing this. And I'm like, dude, these guys and gals, they're gals. What am I, from Texas? Hearing you do but they're killing it, You're right. It's a different huddle. Like musicians.
Yes.
I think musicians, I said this to Rocco the other day. Musicians to me they're the best art form. I admire musicians more than us as filmmakers. Not that I admire more. I just think that maybe that's not the right word because that's silly. I don't want to
just hold them in a higher regard.
I just wish I could do what they did.
Okay.
I wish that, it's like, dude, if like they could just like break out and
play,
piano and bring emotion to you instantly. Unlike our art form where it's like filmmaking, where it's like, which is great, I love it, or theater, but it's a process. You got to get the audience out there, and they got to.
Right.
But with a musician, they could just be right here and sing to you and like bring joy or inspiration
Although I will say,
if they're good.
Right, if they're good.
They could also.
Listen.
You should hear me in the shower. It's not that.
I'm
it's
gonna
not
pass
that impressive.
on that. I'm gonna pass on that concert.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean in the shower like you said.
No,
I didn't mean it that way. But yeah, it's not good.
I think though, with the way the industry is and how it's shifted so much, especially like with the pandemic, live theater, live performances are going to start to change. I mean, they're going to start to become the number one thing. That's going to be the thing that's in high demand, because where else are you going to be able to see somebody perform this thing?
Yeah. Right,
Even
right.
if they, they may stream it, but oftentimes they'll stream it at the end of whatever tour, whatever run they have.
Yeah.
Then they'll do it, but you'll create a demand for it. Just
Right.
like stand-up comedians, like, oh, so-and-so is going to be in LA on October such and such. I'm going to buy tickets to go see them because I want to hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because I heard, when they were in St. Louis, they were saying this. Like, I saw a couple clips from the show or this, that, and the third.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like that demand to see that act or that performer live. I think that's coming back.
I think so too. I agree. Well, listen, what I like to do is when we're closing out the interview,
Okay.
I like to ask the guests to look at that camera that's on you
Okay.
and deliver a message to somebody that's watching, somebody that your story's resonating with. Give them some words of advice or inspiration of what or how they could pursue things that you're pursuing.
I would say if you are pursuing any dream, no matter what it is, whether it be in the arts or in like the field of medicine or in finance even, get as much information, look for all the resources, get the knowledge, because if you have the knowledge, you can go places. You can strike up conversation with people that you wouldn't normally meet or normally interact with, or people who wouldn't look your way. Get as much information. You have a device, you have either a computer, or if you don't have one, you can go to the library. You can go use free Wi-Fi. Do not think in a limited mindset. Think outside of the box. Go out, ask questions. Anywhere you go, just ask questions. Be hungry for that. Because if you stop yourself, and we're all guilty of it, we've all had self-doubts or whatnot, but keep going. Just don't stop. Keep going. You'll meet the right people that you're supposed to meet.
Amazing. Felicia, this was great.
Thank you, Paul. This was awesome.
I feel like I went a little over on time because it was I've never actually
I know we never got to talk
so
in
much
depth.
stuff I'm learning. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Yeah. It's been great. I look
is
forward to
awesome.
hopefully working more together. I'm sure we will.
For sure.
And man, let me close this out. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of FYI. Sitting here with Felicia, I took a lot of gems. At the end of every episode, I like to bring out some of the gems that I took. Felicia talked about her father. She talked about her parents' sacrifice and her father immigrating to this country, spending a day in New York, sleeping on the train, heading up into the South, I believe it was, North Carolina, before coming to the West Coast and bringing his wife over. She talked about, getting to know more about who her father was. He died when she was 2, very young. So what I took from that is, no matter what, we always have this longing to know a little bit more about our roots, about where we come from, and about the people who came before us. I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's something that not everybody thinks about at younger ages. But it usually creeps up on you. It did for me as well. So I would encourage anybody out there, look into your lineage, look into where you come from. I think that everybody should be able to be proud, and they should be proud of where they come from, where they're at. And that doesn't mean we separate from other. We're all, like Felicia said, everybody's the same. We're all looking to do the same things. We want to enjoy life, provide for our families, chase our dreams. Let's stop with these borders and separations of each other, and let's bring more love into the daily routines. And we can't control that. We can't really control governments and we talked about empires and stuff, but we can't control what we do day to day. So just being that person that's always open and flexible. We talked about pivoting. I mentioned to Felicia about how everybody loved working with her on our last production. Be that person in the world. That's what I learned working with Felicia. Be that person that shows up on time, prepared, with a smile. Yeah, sure, you could have bad days, but don't be the person whose bad day turns into 2 bad days and 3 bad days. You know what? That becomes a habit. It becomes an illness. You just be that person that's always negative, that's like moping around at work. Nobody wants to be around that person. You don't want to be around that person. Be the person, throw the smile on, do what needs to be done, and be the person that people want to be around. That's what I'm striving to do more in my own life. We also talked about Felicia's work habits and the different jobs and the different hustles she does. She does the voiceovers, she does the film acting, she's constantly grinding, and I think that's very important to put out there in the world. No matter what you do, I say hustle, grind. But what I'm saying, if you're an artist or an entrepreneur, especially this is for you. You got to be willing to put in the long hours. You got to be willing to try different things, make ends meet, legally. Make ends meet. Don't get yourself in trouble, but be willing to go that extra mile. Be up before other people. Go to bed after other people. All the stuff that gets talked about. Anyways, I learned a lot from Felicia. It was a great interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next one.
You should never stress about the problems you be facing. Everybody in the mud on the struggle trying to make it. Look into the mirror and you see the motivation. Then you step into the world and you find your inspiration. I'm finding inspiration, and once I get a hold of it, I'll never get complacent. Look into the mirror and you see the motivation. Then you step into the world and you find your inspiration.